Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the CX show with me, James Talk Sport. From Anneke's first win in Belgium to Trek Bauer's Lions' dominance in Tabor, let's take a look through the action from the Cyclocross this week. And we'll start on Remembrance Day, the 11th of November for the Telenet Superprestige in Niel. Um, the route has changed in previous years. It's now got, following the tarmac section at the start, it's got a steep drop and a run up. Then it goes through the typical mud into the sand, and they've added a new feature. The British commentators called it the mogul section. It was odd. It was odd to watch, and it ultimately played a role in the race, which I guess that's what the organisers wanted. Anyway, with the racing, the women's race was started by Anna Marie Verst getting a fantastic start. She would eventually be joined by slow starter Lucinda Brand, Denise Betzemer, Yara Castelline, and Celine Del Carmen Alvarado. Castelline and Alvarado would struggle in the thick mud of the runs and the whooping section. Betzemer would go off hard after Verst's crash on lap one, only to be caught and ultimately dropped at the end. So it looks like a battle between Brand and Verst. However, Lucinda Brand, after the slow start, remember, hit the front hard and got a gap over Anna Marie, and ultimately on the mogul section, that's where the race was over. Verst crashed on one of the early parts of it and left Lucinda Brand to take the win, 18 seconds ahead of Verst, Betzemer at 32. Performance of the day, though, goes to Anneke. The 22-year-old broke a collarbone a few weeks, 6 weeks ago or something. She finished 8th, 2:45 back on her return, beating the likes of Van Alphen, Van der Heijden, and Clara Honsinger. The men's race, it was again a battle between Trek and Paul Salzen, and Quinton Hermans, I suppose, as well, but he seems to have a lot of bad luck. Lars van der Haar led it out, but ultimately it was Arts and Isabit that got away. Arts really enjoying the mogul section and looked like he could put in a gap into Isabit. Isabit ultimately hung on and won the sprint. Some say it was a controversial sprint, but as Tone said, he just didn't have the legs to make it controversial with any sort of move from Isabet. Quentin Hermans would finish 22 seconds back in third, and notable performance of the day goes to 23-year-old Kevin Kuhn from Switzerland, who is showing signs that he's improving and may move towards the top end of sport. On the same day, we had Cyclocross International de la Solitaire over in France. Joshua Dubois and Perrin Clausel were the favourites, and they took the wins in there ahead of Jaco Doragoni and David Manu for the men's race, and Nicole Fed and Serene Muller in the women's race. On Saturday, the 13th of November, we had the Ethias Cross in Leuven. Always a good course to watch, but this year didn't have as strong a field with it having the World Cup the day after. The women's race was dominated by the Brits. Anneke got out early with 41-year-old Ellen Van Looy, and the two never looked back. They never looked like being challenged. On lap two, ultimately Anneke would get a gap and she'd come home 47 seconds ahead of Ellen Van Looy, a minute 13 ahead of Lyra Verdonschot. As I said, she broke a collarbone weeks ago. It's her second race back, and to take a win against experience of Van Looy, the Don Shot, Mal captains as well. Brilliant result for her. For the Brits, we dominated the top 10. Amira Mella was in fourth, Josie Nelson in seventh, and Zen Craze was in eighth. In the men's race, Lawrence Wake was the dominant rider in there as we expected, going out early and getting that gap and never seen again. Denge Hacks were the dominant team of the race. They had Tom Yersen, Dan Surter, and Lander Locks up there for the race for the podium with BH Burgos rider Felipe Orts. Ultimately, Tom Yersen's experience probably played a part in him finishing second, and Orts, fantastic result for Spain in third place. Sunday the 14th, and we were in Tabor for the latest round of the World Cup, and it was a good one. Zoe Backstead continued her good form, winning the women's junior race ahead of Leon Bentveld. David Haverdings won in a sprint for the men's junior against Nathan Smith of Great Britain. Ben Askey, Lewis's brother, was also in fourth place. The men's under 23 was taken by Maze Hendricks, who is in very good form recently, ahead of Ryan Camp and Cameron Mason. And the women's race, it was a dominant showing again from the teenager Petersa, who looked fantastic on the barriers. She always got the gap, but was always caught. It was a battle between Van Anrooy, who finished in seventh, all the way up to Brand, who won the race. But it went down to the final lap, and Brand won in the sprint ahead of Petersa and Anna Marie Verst, who's finding her form. In the men's race, we had another fast race. Quentin Hermans looked strong until a puncture took him out of the lead group midway, and that probably affected his end of the race. He still managed to finish in third, however, but 15 seconds behind the winner, Lars van der Haar, who has always done well on the Tabor circuit. He was the favourite to win in 2015 World Championships, and he came up against Van der Poel and Van Aert, but he's always done well, and he won with a fantastic final lap, 11 seconds ahead of Eli Iserbyt. Two Italians in the top 10, Joel Bertolini and Jacob Doragoni continued his form. They finished 9th and 10th respectively. Coming up this weekend, we have the Superprestige in Merckplas on Saturday the 20th, and we're back for another round of the UCI World Cup in Koksijde, which is one of my favourite courses. Also on Sunday, we have the next round of the British National Trophy Series. Cyclocross from France comes from the Cyclocross de la Grandeville, and North Carolina carries on, along with races in Poland, Japan, Slovakia, and Spain as well. There we have episode 2 of the CX show with me, James Talks Sport. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you next time.